Hello, and welcome to another episode of TacoBytes, your daily bite of Degen, episode number 438, coming to you live from the courthouse steps of Southern District, New York, as the SBF trial comes to the next phase. The defense has rested, and both prosecution has waived their rebuttal witnesses and redirect, and everything from the defense as well. So the defense is officially rested, and now we are going into jury instruction after lunch, which the jury has now been excused for the day. They will be back bright and early tomorrow morning. They've been doing an amazing job, and a huge shout out from Judge Kaplan for recognizing them for all of the work that they have been doing. Want to do a quick shout out to everyone on Lonely, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Telegram, Discord, LinkedIn, and Rumble. Thank you so much for joining us today. Please like, subscribe, comment, share, all of the above. If you like what you see. And if not, leave a comment why. Thank you. So as we started off today, prosecution started, Sassoon finished up on Sam, talking about, first, the prosecution, the judge opened up with as whether or not they were going to be sitting for court on Friday, with multiple different options of, excusing a juror, waive, or expedite so that the juror can do their travel on Friday. Court resumed at 9:40 a.m. this morning. With Sassoon sort of talking about communication with Bohemian officials and what that looked like, and was there because some of the things that FTX was looking at doing with the Bahamas, even one of the things that was talked about yesterday, paying off roughly $13 billion that the Bahamian government has, and sort of really touching the culture there and being part of it, because they sort of had laid home there, and then they sort of went and talked off about different private chats, Project Chinchilla chatter, and then as it was going through bankruptcy court with the SVP or the SVB, that private discussion groups with the AG of the Bahamas, and so some interesting pieces there. Initially, then they drove back into talking about the fiat ad account, and Sam was sort of talking that he didn't really have control over his employees. They were trying to showcase that. Or Sam was trying to say that, he'd asked them about it when he noticed it, but was told not to bother them. And so, then they sort of went back to the $8 billion bug, and, that he wasn't really able to have any answers and why. He sort of then pushed it off that, he trusted his number 2, 3, 4, and 5 in the company. Being, Nishad, Gary, Caroline, and I forget number 5. I think it was Ryan Salem. So yeah. Then next up, there was a couple questions about, whether or not on a certain day Sam knew information, and he was giving a lot of walk around to that, to the point to where the judge had to interject to sort of clarify and direct the question directly at Sam, Sam sort of gave a smart aleck remark that caused Kaplan to respond, I didn't ask you about that day, just in general, yes or no. And so then it went back into more of sort of the social media side of things, of what they told customers, and how they were treating the Bahama residents and FTX accounts, and whether or not they were getting special privileges that Sam was directly controlling. And then we had our first break right around 11:05 as the defense rested, or not defense, but prosecution rested on Sam, allowing for a defense redirect. As we came back from the break, one of the big things, was asking about, customer growth. As originally the prosecution had pointed out, calling crypto Twitter. And Sam sort of gave a little bit more that it was, not only just social media, but it was more of a word of mouth, friends, and then talking about the brand partnerships, which is really what drove customer growth via social media. When he was sort of talked about the Alameda Research ownership, as the fact that prosecution was laying out that he was the full owner and controlling owner of Alameda, even though he was sort of directing everything that was still happening. What his response was when he was redirected by the defense is, when he was asked about the AR ownership, his response was, I was primarily an owner, mostly involved in the investment side, and then later on in directing where hedging should have been, but didn't follow up a lot on that as much as he should have. And the way the defense sort of leaned into it, it sort of got to attempt to show a softer side of Sam, because when they were sort of redirecting him to sort of have his final statement, where it was what he was trying to do, the movements he was trying to do, was as he kept saying, to get customer funds, the most protection and stuff like that. And we touched on the bankruptcy part with the JPL and the SVB, and I'll get into that in just a second, because there is some cool follow up there and learn more about. And so one of the things they went back to was his after the collapse notes, and sort of talking about keeping Alameda 100% separate. Then there was a number of questions about the line of credit that that was pointed out. The $65 billion line of credit that Alameda had. And so Sam sort of had the chance to say that it was theoretical, maximum theoretical, but never more than roughly $2 billion was used for that LOC. Then sort of talking about the Genesis Digital Assets, the mining company, and that it would have been a good investment if they had hedged, so $1 billion on that, then a $2 billion BTC hedge to the buy. One of the things then they sort of showcased really quickly was the list of investments that Alameda made. One of the lines that was in there was a $40 million investment to Yuga. So, and that was Exhibit 14A. So we're going to be getting that pulled over the next 2 days. And so that will be really interesting to pull and see. And what the comments for that was, and what that was aimed and directed towards. Then they sort of talked more on the private jet spending, as they said that in 2022 he spent $15 million in private jet use. And so he said his response to that was because of flight patterns and stuff like that in and out of the Bahamas, that and with the amount of time that he was spending just in DC alone throughout the year, back and forth, he said 30-ish days in total or aggregate, that based on the amount, comparatively to other businesses and stuff like that, that it was relatively small and a needed expense. Then we talked about the bankruptcy filing with the Robinhood shares, Emergent Fidelity, which owned those shares. That company was 90% owned by Sam, 10% owned by Gary, and it was Antigua based. One of the things where they dived into was the reason why that affidavit that we talked about yesterday was filed, that affidavit of claiming, was needed. The outline and the more reasoning given to that was because he was sued by a person, specifically outside of anything for the bankruptcy spot, but directly by a person. We didn't get to hear who that person was, but that they needed to file that claim per court to, say that it was theirs, so someone else couldn't try to claim it directly. Then they went into, the email back with Ryan Pinder, who's the Attorney General of Bahama, on November 9th, where FTX or Sam, with both the SVB tied into that email, that part of that was redacted. That was Exhibit 248, so we won't be able to get all of that. But one of the pieces that was talked about was the fact that they were offering, sort of, they're sorry for everything that went on, but because of what was going on, and because how they said Bahama had been so far behind them, they wanted to give immediate access as quickly as possible to make all Bahamian residents whole that might have been part of the FTX. And so one of the things they were going to say, they said, was, if you said yes, we'll make it done immediately. If not, it would be done the next day, aka November 10th. Then, there was a couple different lines that were sort of led by the defense to get Sam to say that he wanted to help get customers their funds. And with that, the defense rested. Then, prosecution and defense had some foundational objections on Exhibit 2534, and the prosecution's solution was to bring back the Google expert, Gary from Texas. The judge was like, heck no way. It wasn't on stipulations of whether or not this document came from Sam's Google Drive, but whether or not it had been used anywhere else. And this was the thing that the defense sort of missed on, is the defense started to say that, yes, this was a draft. It was created way before FTX was even incorporated, or even, had came into, into being a platform in any way, shape, or form, that it was a draft. And so what they could have said is there was no proof of how that it was shared with anyone. And unfortunately, they sort of missed on that, which then allowed the prosecution to still allow to have it as a tie to Sam, as they were sort of talking about that this was that clawback document that, I guess on the last page it says that it's a draft. The prosecution was trying to say, oh, well, we'll get rid of that page then, which would have fallen for the prosecution, but the defense wanted a fully striked testimony with the full document. And this was where Sam laid out first word oh man reduced second word clawback. And so that was that interesting piece yesterday. Then both sides rested at 12:14 today. Kaplan sent the jury home at 12:15, then asked for any motions. The defense had a motion for acquittal, immediately denied. And we are going back into lunch right about now, So we will see you later at the end of the day as it goes to jury instructions, where the defense and prosecution will sort of argue on each of the charges, and how those instructions should be given, and what the scope of each charge is for the jury to look at, and really sort of break down how these charges will look. So we will be back with you at the end of the day. And yes, we are worn out, tired. We've been here since before 1 a.m. And it was cold today. No rain like it was yesterday. So we are dry, but it was cold, and the cold just made us want to hibernate and sleep. So yes, we did nod off in court three times today. Yeah, we did. For just a second, it was bad. But huge shout out to all the other reporters and all of the general public that showed up as well. It's sort of shown the dedication of continuously trying to provide direct coverage and concrete information, which I just want to give a huge shout out to everyone that has been part of this and providing information. So yeah, thank you to everyone for being here and being part of this. And we will see you on the flip side. And as always, we end with our words of wisdom and the greatest worst knock knock joke on the face of the planet, and that is our words of wisdom are: a closed mouth cannot be fed, and you cannot feed a closed mouth. Meaning, if no one knows you're looking for opportunity, opportunity can never come a knocking. And if opportunity does come a knocking and no one answers, it's going to keep on walking. And with that, we end with the greatest worst knock knock joke on the face of the planet, and that is knock knock. Who's there?